If you are looking to travel or move to Germany, one thing you may be thinking about is how to avoid getting scammed in your new and foreign environment. So what do you actually need to look out for?
Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie.
And I'm Aubrey.
And we are two Americans currently living in Germany and sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. No matter where you travel internationally, you probably won't be familiar with everything going on around you, and sometimes you will be viewed as a target for scams by those that know you are out of your element. However, you may not know exactly what to look out for because you won't know what actually is a scam and what is simply just a cultural difference sometimes. When we first moved to Germany, we were on high alert to make sure that we didn't fall for any easy scams as we tried to learn how things were done here. And in that high alert mindset, we came across 5 different things in Germany that at first glance felt like a scam based on what we were used to in the US, but turns out is just the way that things are done here in Germany. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today in our video. Conman or German? Things not actually a ruse, just different world views.
Our experiences are definitely specific to where we are originally from, a state in the southern US called Oklahoma, and where we live now in the southwestern German state of Rhineland-Pfalz. Both of these places have their own unique subcultures that may not be representative of the two countries as a whole. Therefore, let us know your experiences with these things in the comments below and where you're from.
We want to start by saying that in Germany, you may come across the odd scam here or there, or maybe just the rare petty pickpocket in the large cities, just like you will in any other place in the world. But overall, Germany is an extremely safe country with very honest and responsible people. After having lived here for 2 years, we can definitely say that there are other countries where we would warn our friends and family to watch out for scams much more than we would ever tell them to worry about this in Germany. When I first came to Germany in college to study abroad, it was my first time outside of the US, so I was extra anxious and constantly trying to make sure that I didn't stick out and become a target for scammers. Although I was on high alert, there was one place I wasn't expecting to be scammed, and that was in the bathroom. So the first time that I needed to use the restroom in a German shop, and there was somebody sitting in front of the door demanding that I give them money to use the restroom, I couldn't figure out what to do because I had never paid to use a restroom and I wasn't prepared for someone to ask me to do this.
This is something that is fairly common in Europe, and for many Americans coming to Europe for the first time, they are just like us, have never paid to use a restroom, and are caught off guard when they are asked to do so. Over here, in many places that have toilets the public may use, like restaurants, shops, train stations, or malls, they will hire people to sit out in front of the bathroom doors to make sure people pay to use the restroom and to clean the restroom. Often these people may not even be wearing anything that makes them stand out as an employee, and sometimes they won't even have a price posted because you're just expected to drop any small amount on the plate. Because they don't always have prices or uniforms, for someone who's used to free bathrooms, they may think this is just a random person at the bathroom bullying people into giving them money.
So no, this is not a scam. The money goes to the upkeep of the restrooms, and the price will typically be around 50 cents to €1, but it varies from place to place. Because you pay and there are these bathroom attendants, this typically means you will have very clean public restrooms. However, I will say that sometimes you will pay and you still end up with a disgusting restroom, and maybe once you get used to the very clean public restrooms, you will feel scammed when you do pay for one like this. Which, by the way, just a total random thought, but let me know in the comments, have you found that actually one of the most positive aspects of wearing a mask in the last year is that you don't have to smell the smelly public restrooms with one on? By the way, if you would like to support us making these videos, simply hitting that like and subscribe buttons and leaving a comment that you are enjoying our videos goes a really long way for us. Please remember to do that. And also, if you would like to support us in other ways, we do have our Patreon linked in the description. But now, let's get back to the video.
We have heard people talk about various public transportation ticket scams to look out for in big European cities, so we can be extra cautious while using transport like buses or subways. On public transportation throughout Germany, Germany, you will often have some sort of official come by in a very identifiable uniform asking to verify tickets, and this is totally normal and legitimate. However, for the first time last fall, I experienced something in Berlin that could also be a little bit concerning for tourists that don't speak German and are out of their element on public transportation. And that is, sometimes somebody who's dressed just like you in plain clothes will walk up and demand to see your ticket.
Luckily for us, I had experienced this before in other cities, so I knew all it was were undercover ticket authorities trying to catch people stealing rides. Sometimes people who don't actually pay the fare will get on a subway, for example, look around for a uniformed ticket authority, and if they see one, they will just get off and wait for the next train that doesn't have someone checking tickets. To avoid this, sometimes these undercover officers will step on the train and slump down in a seat on their cell phones to blend in just like the rest of the commuters, but once the train takes off and the public transport ride thieves have nowhere to run, the plain-clothed officers start calling out for people's tickets. It can be somewhat startling to some when you are expecting someone in a uniform, and sometimes you can't help but think, should I trust these guys or are they gonna steal my ticket or something? But don't be alarmed, this is not a scam.
So how do you know if they are legit or not? Well, if you see someone walking down the train and checking every single person's ticket, you can judge based on how they are treating everybody else and how everyone else handles it if they're legit or not. If they are just singling you out and not checking everybody else, then you may have a problem. But I would say this is extremely rare. These officers also often are in groups of 2 or 3, and once they start checking tickets, they will usually pull out the official ticket scanning machines from their pockets, and they will often have badges that they may show.
When we were traveling around Europe for the first time and would arrive in a new city, one of the first things we would do is look up walking tours. In our research, no matter where we were, we would constantly find tours being advertised as free walking tours. As everybody knows, nothing in life is free, so we thought this surely was some sort of scam. We thought they would lure you in with the idea that you were getting a free tour of the city, but then there would be all sorts of hidden fees in the end. After seeing these offered all over the world, we finally just did a free walking tour to find out for ourselves if they were truly free, and turns out it isn't a scam at all.
Free walking tours are literally free walking tours. All you typically have to do is simply sign up online by providing your name to reserve a spot, and you don't even have to provide any credit card information. These tours can vary in length depending on the city you're in, but typically they last a couple of hours. They give you all sorts of amazing history and information, and then at the end, you are welcome to tip the tour guide however much or little you want without any pressure. So truly, you could just walk off without tipping and you will have gotten a free walking tour. However, we always tip at the end because we truly have always been pleased with these tours and have always wanted to pay something for how great it was.
So, if you're leaving a tip, is it free? Well, sure, you can make an argument that it isn't 100% free, but we're literally just splitting hairs here. For many tours, you will pay for the tour and may end up tipping a little bit anyways. The other exception I do have to mention is that we have been to some really major tourist cities like Rome, where we did have to reserve our spot by paying about €1.50 per person. So that one wasn't totally free, but cost like €3. We now do one in nearly every city we visit that offers one, and we cannot recommend them anymore.
One thing surprising for many Americans moving to Germany is the amount of mail you will receive, in particular from various government agencies, but also from other unexpected sources once you find a place to live. In particular, one unrequested letter everybody receives at their new home is particularly confusing for many Americans and is often questioned as if it is a scam the first time they see it. In this lovely little letter will be a note asking for the household to start paying €17.50 per month for radio and television.
Hey guys, Future Donnie here. I'm actually editing this video right now, and since we filmed this video, the government has actually increased the rates now, 86 cents to €18.36 per month. So my attitudes have changed a little bit towards this. It's a scam.
A vast majority of Americans we have talked to were confused by this letter and thought it was just junk mail for a cable or satellite service provider, and some of them just threw it away. We even have one friend who did just that, and after 4 years of living in Germany, she decided to move back to the States, and she was sent a not as lovely little note saying she owes 4 years worth of TV and radio payments.
So what is this letter actually, every household in Germany must pay a license fee to contribute to funding public broadcasting on radio and television. Even if you don't watch television or listen to radio and stream all of your entertainment, you still have to pay. There are very few exceptions that only really apply to those that are low income and on welfare or have serious health issues that may hinder them from actually being able to use these services. We actually already covered the subject in much more detail in a different video that we made about the differences between German and American television that we will link right up here, but the short story is that public television is a much bigger deal in many places in Europe, including Germany, than in the US, and it is often paid for by a TV license, which of course a TV license is something that we don't have in the US. So this also is not technically a scam, but depending on who you talk to and their political feelings on the subject, maybe they would define it as such. It's a scam.
Although we have lived in Germany for 2 years, there's one thing we still haven't gotten used to and honestly don't really understand. When you sign up for an American bank account, you are given a bank account number and your bank will have a routing number. Your bank's routing number is, of course, public information that everybody has access to by just a simple Google search, but your bank account number is something that generally everybody tries to keep a secret. You do have to fork it over to certain institutions like your employer for your paycheck to be direct deposited, for online payment services like PayPal, for your tax consultant, and also the US still uses paper checks in some unusual cases, which does have bank account numbers printed on them where anybody could see it. But for the most part, Americans generally don't give that out to people ever if you can avoid it and try to hide that number. In Germany, when you set up your German bank account, you're given an IBAN number that is basically equivalent to your US bank account number and also a BIC or SWIFT number that is essentially equivalent to a US bank routing number. Because these are so similar, when an American in Germany receives their IBAN number, they often want to guard it from everybody, but then are shocked with how often they are asked for it and how often they see other people's IBAN numbers. Sometimes Americans will even think that someone must be scamming them when they are asked for their IBAN, because why would they give that information out?
Now, we are not banking or data protection experts, and there are definitely a lot of you that are going to be much more educated on this subject than us, but our simplification of the systems in both the US and Germany is that when you give your bank account or your IBAN number to someone, really the only thing they can do with it is deposit money. In Germany, to be able to draw money out of an account, even if you have the IBAN, you would also need a TAN code to be able to actually access it. But even with that knowledge, it is hard to get used to your IBAN being on your debit cards, or sometimes the local utilities send postcards asking you to send it back with your IBAN on it for payments, which is sent out in the open for all to see. I want to put a huge asterisk here because I would still advise to keep all personal information as close and private as possible. It's one of those things that just feels strange to have what seems like a very important thing out in the open for all to see. But we've come to get more used to how openly it is used in Germany since it is so seemingly secure. But let us know in the comments, Germans, do you feel totally comfortable giving out your IBAN number, or do you also try to keep it as secret as possible? And for Americans, same question, but with your bank account number. But just don't comment your IBAN and bank account numbers.
So just because you come across something that seems strange or different to you in a foreign country, it may not be a scam at all, but just a different way of doing things. One thing we really want to stress in our videos is that just because some things are done differently in different countries does not mean that one has it right or wrong. These could just simply be different ways of looking at things or problem solving. So when you come across something that is not what you are used to, sure, take a close look and do your research to make sure you aren't getting scammed in some way, but then once you figure out you are not being scammed, have an open mind and see if there is something you can learn from a different world perspective.
If you have ever had an experience in a country where you were confused by something that seemed questionable but turns out is just the normal way of doing things in that country, leave that in the comments below. To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is, do you start counting on your hand with your thumb or with your index finger? Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe buttons, and we will see you in our next video.
Cheers! I think I started thinking about other things while I was talking.
I do all the time. So if you're leaving a tip,
We even had one friend who did that We even have one friend who did